Hey, welcome back. I am just in the process of doing a bunch of doors, pre-hanging them in their jambs. Something that most of the time nowadays we don't even think about. Our doors typically come pre-hung in the jambs, and all we have to do is then hang them in the rough openings. However, there are still times where we need to go through this process. Who knows, maybe you've made your own doors and you need to hang them all in the jambs. And if that's the case, stick around. I'm going to show you how I go about doing it. Okay, so before we start, I just want to run through all the tools and bits and pieces that you're going to need. To begin with, you're going to need some sort of stand to stand the door slab up in. This is one that a buddy of mine made for me. Some 1/2 inch ply, a couple of pieces of 2x4 and a couple of gussets here, with a couple of extra pieces of ply here. And the idea is that when the door goes in, the top of the bracket sort of pinches the door and holds it nice and still. And it works quite well for the way I do these doors. If, however, I'm doing doors where I'm having to chisel the mortises for the hinges, I much prefer to use this type of door stand. And this is simply a piece of 2x4. You know, it's a couple of feet long, 90-degree cut in this side and an angled cut. Doesn't really matter what angle. Nothing too steep, obviously, because you're going to make a little wedge. And with the door sitting in here, you just tap that in with a hammer, and that holds the door nice and solid while you're chiseling and working on it. So it's also really easy and simple to make. So if I only had a door or two to do, that'd be the stand that I'd use. Next thing you're going to need is some sort of template for the hinges. And personally, for hanging these doors, I have this one that I've made up. It has obviously all 3 hinge positions set, and there's a positive sort of place to register off both the top of the door and the jamb, if you like. And there's a difference of 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch between those 2 parts of the jig, so that, you know, this part, when it's clamped to the top of the door and it's routed out, and then this longer part where it's clamped to the jamb material. I use a little offcut of jamb material here to get that to the right spot, clamp that on and route each of the hinge positions. And with this difference, that just gives me the 1/8 gap at the top of my door when it's hung. So it doesn't need to be quite that elaborate, though. It could be something as simple as, you know, a hinge jig like this, which, you know, there's plenty of plans, if you like, for this sort of thing on the internet. That in combination with, you know, a little trim router even, and a top bearing bit. So the only downside, I guess, to doing this is you need to measure for each of your hinges and then do the corresponding hinges with that on your jamb, and make sure that you allow for the difference in height. So that's those. Another jig that I use is this, and I use it again. There's 2 different lengths, and again 3 millimeters difference. This I use with the shorter part to mark a mark on the edge of the door for where I'm going to bore for the latch and the door set. So, and then again the longer one, same sort of deal when I'm doing the jamb, I use that offcut, pull the jig up to that, and then just mark where the striker plate goes. So that needs to be drilled with a 1-inch hole. So the other thing about this is that I've got a couple of marks here. So once I mark it with the screw, I actually place 2 tick marks with a pencil, and that is so that I can use this jig, which is one that goes on the jamb, clamps down to that, and then again just route out so that the striker plate finishes flush with the jamb. So those. As far as drilling the doors, I actually have, because I do so many, I have this Templaco drill jig with a 2 1/8 bit here and a counter bore for the latch, which is a 1-inch bit. Really nice jig. Obviously, if you're only doing the odd door, maybe not feasible for what you're going to have to pay. In which case, you would buy just a simple jig like this, and you'd be able to get this at your local hardware store. And this will come with a 2 1/8 inch hole saw and a 1-inch hole saw. It'll actually accommodate a 2 3/8 or a 2 3/4 back set, so lots of adjustment there. And it will also accommodate the different thicknesses of doors that we typically have here in North America, which is an 1 3/8 or an 1 3/4 door. 1 3/4 is typically an entrance door, as is the 2 3/4 back set. So I should add too that the router, the way I have my jigs set up, I do it all with a template thing on the router. So it's just a straight 1/2 inch router bit in that. So whenever I'm assembling the jambs themselves, always use glue and simply 18 gauge narrow crown staple, 1.5 inch narrow crown staple. That can be, I've been using this battery powered one. A lot of the time I go down to the hardware store and hang these doors for them. So it's really nice not to have to take the compressor and air hose and all the rest of it, but there's nothing wrong with using a pneumatic gun too, if that's what you have. So, okay, that's pretty much it, I think. Let's get into it. First thing we need to do is measure our door, and I'm pretty sure these are 30-inch doors. Yeah, so I'm going to add to that, and I'm just going to work in inches just for simplicity's sake. So I'm going to add 5/32, and then I'm just going to cut that off here. This side of the jamb, the hinge side, again, I'll take my offcut of jamb material, and I'm just going to put that hard up against that the top of the jamb where it's rabbeted, and then slide the jig up to it. Again, just using this clamp. There we go. I've just got to hold this jig. Now, obviously, if you're without a jig like this, you would be using something like this, clamping it on, and then routing it out that way. But all right. Side, in a little bit through. Okay, there you have it. That's how I go about pre-hanging interior doors, passage doors. Basically the same with an exterior door, but these are obviously a lot lighter to throw around. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like to see more of this content, maybe consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next video.